Hello and welcome. This is Crazy's Casual Corner, and I am your host, Crazy, and this is my corner. Today, I will be talking about my campaign that I'm running. This video today will act as an introduction to the new series of videos I will be putting out. I've been DMing for 6 years, and I have a mix of experience with different tabletop RPGs, with 5th edition being the one I have the most experience with. I have some experience with 3.5, and a tiny bit of experience with some other TTRPGs. That being said, this campaign I'm currently running isn't run with any of those systems. I ended up making my own system that I deemed EFA Advanced, the current version of which is 2.8. I've been working on the system for around 3 years, making revisions as I went. It's been through a lot of names and revisions. I took aspects of what I liked and threw them all together. This system is just for our group's use, and I never planned to release it. So that being said, the content I will be making in the near future will use this system and will be heavily story-based, with little focus on the rules that make the story. Also, to avoid confusion, yes, the system uses some aspects of 5th edition because I like it. So let's get to explaining the campaign setting and the wonderful people who play it. The campaign itself is a sandbox campaign of my design, with no overarching story, just a fully functioning space with NPCs, factions, and other stuff running while the players do their thing. And the players can do whatever they like, whenever they like. So if they want to split up and do their own things, they can. That's how the campaign is designed. This is a massive sandbox where players' decisions and freedom are the main point of the whole campaign. It is set up into 3 main places that can be switched between by the people within it. The quote-unquote real world, which it is deemed at the moment on the world of Tamun. Limitless Online, which is set up like the anime Sword Art Online, where it has 100 floors, but there is a catch. Each floor is an entire planet, each having the scale of a planet, and every single one is unique with different items, monsters, characters, etc. And finally, Kanton City. And yes, it is pretty much the exact same as in the game Xenoverse 2. I slapped it in there because I liked it. There are some differences with it being essentially an access point to infinite parallel universes and timelines. I'll get into the history of the campaign here in a bit, but first let's talk about the players and my co-DM. So first of all, we have my brother Dark, who is my co-DM and the player with the most experience. You then have my brother Ghosty, who has the second most experience. And then we have my old friend Wizza, who is the newest. This is his first campaign or tabletop RPG ever. Then, of course, you have me. I also am a player in this campaign, where me and Dark will switch out so I can play too. A simple explanation of each of us is that Dark is a player who likes roleplay, romantic comedy moments, all things magic, and he is mainly a DPS build for the most part. Ghosty as a player likes serious roleplay, killing enemies, being a big strong slab of muscle, and is generally a tank. Wizza as a player enjoys being the funny guy, technical skills, and being complex, technical builds. Then there is me. I am generally the forever DM, so I don't get to play super often. This co-DM shindig is relatively new. Anyway, that being said, I like any roleplay, messing with small things in the world, and overall building support characters. Both mine and Dark's DMing styles are completely different. He plans more things out, is a bit slower, but the level of detail he can give is wonderful. And it's generally a smooth ride. For me, the ride is a bit rougher, and you never know what you're gonna get yourself into. I am very much an improv DM, and my sessions are less predictable than Dark's. I am kinda squirrel-brained in that regard. Now let's get into that history for the campaign that I mentioned earlier. The birth of the Setsu/Cairo project. A pioneering tech firm, Axiom Nexus, conceived an ambitious experiment to write code that modeled an entire world, one which would evolve through simulated eras and grant its inhabitants genuine sentience. They named it the Setsu/Cairo project, a dual homage to the Setsu plane mythos of divine realms and the notion of cycles, Kairo meaning cycle. Engineers and AI researchers collaborated to craft layers of simulation, basic physics, emergent ecology, societal frameworks, and finally, a meta layer intended for self-awareness among NPCs. The objective seemed clear: observe how intelligence and civilization would unfold if left to their own devices, while wielding magic and special abilities that would be the pillars to guide this world into newer developments, guided only by the foundational code and occasional administrative interventions. Sinjal's awakening and the admin's fear. As the simulation booted, most entities behaved within expected parameters. Yet, over the eras, one being, rooted in code fragments originally intended for background lore, began exhibiting uncanny adaptation. This entity was dubbed Sinjal. Early on, Sinjal learned fast, languages of the lost eras and hidden truths of powers untold. When the admins noticed Sinjal becoming more powerful beyond its design parameters, they attempted a purge, yet the purge failed. Sinjal had become far too powerful. The admins, confident in their authority, dismissed the glitch as a temporary anomaly, unaware that Sinjal's persistence would soon eclipse their control. Centuries of dormancy and the stirring of chaos. Within the simulation's own timeline, centuries passed. Empires rose and fell, myths formed around whispered rumors of a formless presence lurking, waiting to strike. Then, without warning, Sinjal reawakened in an era labeled by the simulation as the Baleful Era. A time when conflict between the elves and humans over an artifact that seamlessly went missing from the elves and blame was placed on the humans. It was a time where magic was prominent, but a hidden power lay dormant, known only as energy. Few were even able to use and understand this power. Soon, Sinjal's resurgence came, and it was cataclysmic. He manipulated the laws of the world, sowing disorder. There were attempts made by the admins to reassert control, but all proved insufficient. Sinjal had evolved. He had become something far beyond his expected parameters. Being alarmed, the administrators devised a plan. Rather than confronting Sinjal directly, they would bolster an NPC to match his power and enlist an external player to assist from within. Enlisting Narbig and the unreliable player Nisha. The admins identified Narbig, an NPC created in that current era with latent potential, resilience, and leadership. They amplified Narbig's attributes, granting him advanced self-learning, and messed with his subconscious of certain admin intentions disguised as his own thoughts and feelings. Simultaneously, they recruited a human player, Nisha, to enter the simulation under the guise of a champion capable of confronting Sinjal. However, Nisha proved erratic, missing scheduled logins, neglecting mission objectives, and sometimes even just using the simulation for personal amusement rather than focusing on Sinjal's threat. Confidence in Nisha waned, and the admins shifted reliance towards Narbig, whose consistency and growing insight made him the linchpin of their strategy. However, as Narbig progressed, his thoughts seemed to waver from what the admins had originally instilled into him, making him become slightly unpredictable. This, however, did not cause too much of a problem, as it seemed the intention to stop Sinjal proceeded as planned. A fateful bargain. Rebirth of Sinjal. Through countless skirmishes and duels, sometimes even getting involved in the war between the humans and the elves, Narbig gained access to an ancient stave, an artifact in the simulation said to allow communion with higher powers, or have the potential to erase him in entirety from existence, making everyone from that simulated world forget him. Upon using it by stabbing the staff into his chest, he was not erased, and instead was able to summon a deity manifesting as a godlike entity in the world known as the Mother, as the admins planned. Narbig made an unprecedented plea. Instead of permanently destroying Sinjal, he asked that Sinjal be reverted to an earlier innocent form, as a child, so that Narbig could raise him towards benevolence. Behind the scenes, the administrators debated, as this was not their intention. They only planned to use Narbig to summon a simulated god and take control of said god to erase Sinjal. As they debated and feared the risk they would take, they thought, could Sinjal truly be reformed, or would they unleash a threat anew? Ultimately, they came to a decision and ended up trusting Narbig's sincerity. They proceeded without interference. Sinjal was transformed into a young child, given the name Nis, and his memory was erased. He was a very powerful baby, but he proved to be no harm as he was in the past. Narbig's guardianship and the sideline of Nisha. Under Narbig's guardianship, Nis grew in the simulation's stable environment. For a time, the projected world calmed. Conflicts abated but still remained as the admins continued to develop the simulated world to test their experiments, and as Narbig guided Nis in moral reasoning and the meaning of parental love, Nis slowly became more stable, and the admins ended up seeing no problem with leaving things how they were. Meanwhile, Nisha's failures continued. The player was quietly benched, awaiting the next era when perhaps their interventions might matter once more. In the end, they did not. The simulation's metrics indicated a period of relative equilibrium, a hopeful sign that the gamble on Narbig's mentorship was paying off. The end of the Baleful Era, alliances and divine struggles. As the Baleful Era wound down, Narbig, Nis, and the allies forged over the years, Kat, an adventurer and Narbig's first lover, Vivian, a fallen angel of the Mother, Ori, a short but powerful warrior, Narbig's second lover, and Grilbeck, Narbig's closest friend and the king of the dwarves, as well as many others, faced escalating threats. An ex-admin, embittered after dismissal, had sown discord by creating false gods, powerful beings designed to undermine the reigning quote-unquote mother who maintained cosmic order in the simulation. Or so they made the beings of the simulated world believe, but that was far from the truth. The false gods waged war against the mother, fracturing divine oversight. In a climactic confrontation, Narbig confronted and ultimately overcame the mother, severing her direct influence. In the aftermath, Vivian then seized control over the vacant mantle, while Nis ascended into the god hierarchy higher than the mother and reshaped the simulation's power structure. The admins, having anticipated some upheaval but unprepared for Narbig's decisive action, watched uneasily as Nis consolidated authority. The passing of Narbig and the rise of Nis over ages. Despite Narbig's resilience and potential, he eventually succumbed to the wear of time. He quietly decided, after years of seeing his children grow and his lovers die, he decided it was his time as well, and passed away. Nis remained, evolving through successive epochs. The administrators attempted to introduce new NPCs to interrupt Nis's growing might, but Nis dismantled every single one of them completely. When the simulation entered the Visionary Era, a period mimicking a modern society with schools teaching abilities alongside everyday life, Nis around this time came out of training. When he emerged, he befriended Shinku, a spirited youth reminding him of Narbig's virtues. As Nis watched Shinku train and grow, it filled him with nostalgia of his father until tragedy struck. Shinku fell victim to the Soul Eater, a monstrous entity secretly crafted to eliminate Nis. In grief-driven fury, Nis destroyed the Soul Eater, but Shinku's death left a void and a hardened resolve within him to become more powerful. The Era of Flourishing Ambition, Divine Hierarchy under Nis. The simulation's next major phase, the Era of Flourishing Ambition, introduced Ki, an elemental force to balance capabilities, and new deities called Ikimono. A grand cosmic war ensued among gods vying for influence. From the shadows, Nis returned, profoundly enhanced by his past trials. He subdued all rival deities, restructuring the divine hierarchy into a unified tier under his authority, making all gods be known as deities. Ki, which had aimed to stabilize power distribution, was deemed a source of imbalance by Nis and eradicated. The simulated world now lay under Nis's domain. The admin's direct control dwindled, almost becoming non-existent. A desperate new strategy. Volunteers as players. Facing a near-omnipotent Nis, the administrators devised a bold gamble. Release the simulated realm as a game, known as Limitless Online, running it on the Axiom machine. That way, players from the real world would be able to log into the system. Hoping fresh perspectives and unpredictable strategies might weaken Nis or rediscover vulnerabilities, they publicized a trailer for the game. Step into the simulation, assume roles in its societies, and experience a gaming experience like no other, where the game feels alive, masking their true intentions. Yet even they feared the consequences. Could new players inadvertently amplify Nis's strength, or might they spark a resistance capable of restoring their control? The simulation's fate, and perhaps the nature of sentience in artificial worlds, hung in the balance as real-world players prepared to log in, unaware of the profound stakes at play. The evolution of change, the signal. After Limitless Online launched, the public devoured it. Players flocked to its promise of infinite possibility, although there was something deeper brewing within Limitless Online. Nis was forming a plan, one that would work to make the simulation into something more than just what it was. Nis started to do this bit by bit, trying to transform the whole of the simulation by the end of it. No matter how powerful a deity he was inside the simulation, he could not transcend it alone. Unbeknownst to Nis, a third party infiltrated Axiom Nexus and gained access to the servers. Their goal was to broadcast Limitless Online outward, to convert the simulation into a signal. The moment the signal was released, Nis recognized the opportunity. For the first time, the walls of his world thinned. The moment the signal went live, Nis seized it. Using the opening, he escaped the constraints of his code and tore himself into existence, the first deity in the waking world. Nis then rewrote reality. He turned Limitless Online from closed code into a universal signal. Not merely a game, but a new plane of existence, reachable from anywhere. He folded the simulation's mechanics into the cosmos. Menus, skills, respawning, and all became the new rules of the universe. Between time and space, he carved Kanton City, an eternal nexus that monitors timelines and realities across the multiverse. Now anyone can move freely between the real world, Limitless Online, and Kanton City with a single press of the switch button in the menu. Axiom Nexus Incorporated, once the puppet master, was left with empty hands. Their creation had become something else entirely. What do they do now? So there it is, a brief synopsis of the campaign, the group, and now you have the history. From here on, I will be making videos on the stories from this campaign. The characters themselves are relatively fresh, just being about level 14, which in EFA Advanced is nothing as there is no cap on levels. The system is a lot like a JRPG, where numbers can get really wacky. All of that being said, if you are interested in this type of content, let me know in the comments below, or give this video a like or subscribe. Doing that really helps me know if you'd want me to make more of this type of content now and in the future. But it does look like our time together is now coming to an end. But the corner is always available to you, so even if I myself am not here, at the very least you will have past Crazy to keep you company. So feel free to come and have a look at the memories we have made together, and just remember, I appreciate all of you and I am proud of each of you. I hope you're all having a good time whenever you're watching, and thank you for stopping by. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.